With that being said, I will recognize the ranking member of the full committee, Mr. Raskin.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Chairman. One of our colleagues referred to the weaponization of the DOJ and specifically focused on the January 6th defendants. That startled me because 140 American police officers were violently assaulted on that day, wounded, hospitalized, some of them disfigured, disabled, forced to leave police work. But he said that there would have been a better use of FBI and prosecutorial and investigative resources, and I wonder what he was referring to. And in any event, Dr. Hunt, do you agree with that assessment?
Thank you for that question. January 6th shocked and horrified me. That was a shameful day, not least because of the many attacks on our law enforcement officers. So any suggestion that is a low priority and should not be investigated is shocking to me. I can't imagine a more important devotion of resources by the FBI to anyone who would attack our nation's capital.
Some of our colleagues have again been going back to the idea that the Biden FBI was converted into some kind of political instrument. When I look at the prosecutions that come out of it, I'm thinking about the one of Senator Bob Menendez from New Jersey, who's a Democrat, of Henry Cuellar, who's a Democrat, lots of other Democrats. Other than Donald Trump, I really can't think of any others on the Republican side, and I'm just getting the feeling that they think Donald Trump really should be above and beyond the law, and that's what this whole weaponization thing is about, other than setting the conditions to turn it into an instrument of revenge and retribution, as Donald Trump has promised. Do you think the FBI was acting as an instrument of partisanship in the last administration?
I can only speak from my personal experience, and I can say this. When I was an FBI agent, the men and women that I worked with, they based their investigations on facts and law. They based their investigations on predication. The worry I have is with respect to corruption today. When there's selective enforcement, and just as a regular American citizen, I'm not an insider now, when I see a high-level politician and charges are dropped, and there's no reason, I, as an American citizen, don't understand why that's the case.
You're referring to Mayor Adams.
That's correct.
But there was a reason, which was he agreed to play on Donald Trump's political team, and the very Republican, conservative U.S. attorney for the Southern District said nothing had changed in terms of the facts of the case, nothing had changed in terms of the law, nothing changed in terms of the evidence. All that had changed was that he'd made this political alignment with Donald Trump. She resigned rather than participate in that corrupt bargain, as did her deputy, who said it would take a fool or a coward to accept that deal. He also clerked for a conservative Supreme Court justice and was active in the Federalist Society. And 5 other lawyers dropped out rather than do it until finally they had to force somebody to do it from D.C. who said he'd be willing to do it because he was about to leave his job. You say let's base it on the facts. And I'm really curious about this Signal group chat thing because the country's in an uproar about the fact that the most precious national security information was shared on a Signal group chat where a journalist was actually invited in accidentally by somebody to participate. And some of my colleagues seem to say, well, it was a one-shot deal, let's just let it go, and it's no big deal. The FBI director's already said, no, nothing to see there. If this were a standard practice, just yes or no, do you think it would be a problem?
That would be a problem, yes.
Ms. Parker, do you agree it would be a problem if it were a standard practice?
My understanding, I was not on the Signal chat. I just know it.
Just yes or no, because I've got
you.
little time. If you can't answer.
A mistake was made, and
okay,
people have
Mr.
taken
Stout,
ownership.
can you say, would it be a problem for it to be standard practice to conduct sensitive foreign policy on a Signal chat group?
Yes, I would.
Okay, and Mr. Whitson, do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, well, it just came out like 10 minutes ago. Waltz's team set up at least 20 Signal group chats for crises across the world. So it was, as one might expect, a very standard practice with Mr. Waltz, and I'm sure this will raise the question of whether or not he really should continue in that position. But do you think that the FBI should investigate what the national security implications and what the public safety implications are of his having done that, Dr. Hunt?
So this comes back to the rule of law. As an FBI agent, there were strict rules about sensitive material. We had to be in a SCIF. We had to take the utmost caution. So to treat other people that are more powerful differently definitely suggests to me a deviation from the rule of law.
All right, thank you, and I yield back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank the gentleman. You know, there's a difference between a mistake and purposeful, perpetrated policies
Chair.
are wrong.
Just point out, okay.
I beat you to it. I recognize